YouTube fam? I'm your host, Jeff Rosado, and welcome to the channel. Today, I have a Dragonlord Deck Tech for you guys. I've been test playing this for a while. In fact, when I actually opened my Dragonlord box, that was a while ago, and since then, I've had plenty of time to craft a Dragonlord list, and I've had to have test played so many different deck lists, but I feel like this deck list in particular is to my liking. You see, because how I have this built is to be a control deck. Ideally, I want to play a bunch of burn spells or cards that control the board state long enough for me to pace the game to draw dragons and play them. And what better way to play dragons than with the Dragonlord himself using Caelestis as his unique dragon. So Dragonlord essentially has you set aside a unique dragon, and if you meet its threshold requirement, you can pay 3 to gain its abilities this turn. Which is actually kind of crazy because since we are using Caelestis, Dragonlord actually gains the airborne ability, meaning that he can attack and move diagonally, and it is very interesting because that comes up so many times in games, and having that little mechanic is it's very useful when you're using it with Dragonlord. It doesn't gain the Void Walk because an avatar can't be in the Void, but regardless, the most important ability is the tap ability of Caelestis. You see, by tapping, the next dragon spell that you cast at this location costs 0. So ideally, what I want to try to do with this deck is stall long enough to obviously draw dragons, but if I meet one of every threshold, when I get 3 mana, I can pay 3 mana to have Dragonlord gain Caelestis' dragon summoning ability, tap Dragonlord because of Caelestis' ability, and then I can play a dragon at that location. Any dragon I want, just so long as I meet that dragon's threshold as well. It's very specific to make it happen, but that's why I felt like a control shell deck list was the best way to go. Simply because I can stall the game long enough to facilitate this unique strategy. So I'm going to start with my artifacts. I actually play mixes. So I have 2 Mix Ignis, 2 Mix Terra, and 2 Mix Air. I originally was playing Mix Aqua, but I had to cut it because I'm not playing so many water spells. So having these is just fantastic, simply because if I sacrifice a mix, my next spell of the corresponding element costs 3 less to cast and requires no threshold. This is actually pretty important because sometimes I won't have the mana to not only activate Caelestis' ability, but also to summon a dragon with a corresponding threshold. So by having a mix, I can essentially summon a dragon a lot easier, or just cast any of my other spells to facilitate my strategy. So I also have Ring of Morgan. Ring of Morgan, I mean, everyone knows what it does. You essentially cast a spell, deal 1 damage to anything nearby the caster, and then you gain 1 life. Of course, if you have this next to Dragonlord, if Dragonlord just keeps casting spells, the Ring of Morgan can go crazy, dealing damage and also gaining you life. It's a perfect card to not only progress the game, but to also stabilize your life total as well. Next, I have Amulet of Minion. So the bearer can't be targeted or damaged by magic. This is very important because there's so many aggro decks right now that are just constantly flooding the realm with minions and also dealing a ton of damage with magic spells. So with Amulet, you can actually kind of protect yourself a little bit longer by not being able to be targeted by those burn spells. And that's actually very important because if you have other removal spells to destroy your opponent's minions, and if Amulet is protecting you from their burn spells, ideally you're in a good setting to pace the game in your favor. And sometimes there have been times where I played this and my opponent just kept drawing burn spells and it just gave me too many turns. Like I got like 9 free turns out of this. And this should be another reason why you want to play Dispel or Disenchant. Most people do, but there are some people who, even if they do play it, it's very hard to get this off because sometimes they've either already played their copy or they just don't draw it. And if you play Amulet at a very convenient time, it could protect you for a long time throughout the game. I play 4 Waters of Paradise. I mean, if I'm playing mixes, it just makes sense to play 4 waters because I believe 4 waters is the better version. You see, each one is only for its corresponding element, but 4 waters says sacrifice it. Bear's next elemental spell requires no threshold and costs 4 less to cast. This is actually just so good because you're able to dish out anything with this card essentially, as long as you already have mana prior, and if you play that, you're going to just start speeding through your deck, and it also helps with summoning dragons. Speaking of which, I have Shrine of the Dragonlord and I have Cradle of Ethereum. Shrine of the Dragonlord is really good. It has a Genesis ability to teleport all dragons at the location of the shrine, but it also gives that site an additional 1 mana and 1 of every threshold, making it easier to facilitate your threshold for Caelestis' ability. Cradle of Ethereum is very interesting because at any time during your turn, you can look at your next spell, and you can also cast dragons from the top of your spellbook at this location for 1 less. I thought that this card wasn't going to be that great, to be honest, but in this list, it actually performs pretty well. Being able to just look at your next spell and kind of see what you're going to plan in the future does tend to be a little relevant. It also helps with your decision on which card you want to draw from what deck. But of course, the most important part is that it helps you cast dragons. So getting to my minions, I have 1 Highland Princess. I mean, I have so many targets for the Highland Princess's ability, so why not? Being able to summon this and activate its Genesis ability to search for any relic for 1 mana cost or less is just really good. I play 3 Kettletop Leprechaun. I thought that this was another card that wasn't all that great, but I started to see more of it at my tournaments, and just for the fact that it has Deathrite to draw a site is actually pretty important. Mainly because obviously we want to facilitate threshold, and sites are the best way to do that. But for the fact that this is 2 mana for 2 power, you could potentially deal gradual damage over time, and if your opponent kills it, you draw a site. So this is actually a pretty interesting card. The fact that it's a fairy actually is highly relevant, and I wanted to play 4, but I figured that I should just do 3 Leprechaun and then 1 Highland Princess, and it turned out to be a little bit more consistent in my favor. I play 1 Morgana Le Fay. This card is ridiculous, bro. Spellcaster and Stealth and Genesis, you draw 3 cards, and only Morgana can cast those cards because it exists in her own hand. This is just crazy because this literally just lets you draw cards, but the fact that it has Stealth means that you can wait for an opportunistic time to play those spells or attack and so forth. This card did get nerfed with the most recent rulebook update, but nevertheless, it's still such a very powerful card, and I feel like if you're playing Fire, you have to play this. This is the best Fire card in my honest opinion. So finally getting to my dragons, I have 2 East-West Dragon. It has Airborne, 4 power, and it moves freely sideways. This is fantastic because this guy is able to just move horizontally any way you want, and it doesn't use up steps for its movement. That's fantastic. It allows you to defend more and allows you to get a little bit more coverage when attacking your opponent. I have 3 Wyvern. Now, Wyverns are beasts that are often mistaken as dragons. Fun fact. But even though it says so in the text, we have to understand that it does say the word dragon. So this is a dragon to play in this list. Most people already knew that, but for those of you who didn't know that, now you know. Wyvern's really great because this is just literally in here to be a body that deals 5 damage every time it attacks, and the fact that it at least has Airborne is fantastic. It does cost hefty, but again, if we're able to play Caelestis' ability, we can play this, and the fact that we can have it at 3 means that it's a little bit easier to draw. In my opinion, this is the best dragon in the game. This is Ancient Dragon. Airborne, you're able to tap and deal 4 damage to each other unit at target location nearby. And for 6 power, this dragon is just a beast. Honestly, I kid you not, and I'm not even trying to be funny, every single game in my entire life where I've played Ancient Dragon, I've always won. I've never lost a single game of Sorcery when I played this card. Call it luck, call it coincidence. Honestly, call it more coincidence than luck. but this card is just so powerful and it closes games really quick. Okay, now for my other dragons. I essentially added one of every Dragonlord card in this deck. The only thing I didn't add was Moonsong Telegalum. I felt like for 3 mana, I wanted to play something like Morgana Le Fay, because Moonsong Telegalum works better with Grey Wolves, and even though it's a dragon, Morgana has about the same stats and just has a better ability for the deck. But anyways, I have the Ignis Rex, which has Airborne, immune to fire damage. Once per turn, you can discard a fire card, deal 3 damage to a unit at target adjacent location. I have Adtonatum, a fantastic dragon that has Airborne and +1 movement. And whenever Adtonatum stops, she may deal 3 damage to another random unit here. And it's just so fantastic. Votan Draconis, so it has Submerge, and at the end of my turn, I can submerge all minions and artifacts here. And sometimes that's just so fantastic when I'm able to have a dragon that essentially can submerge something whenever I move into its location. I have Talum Drag, which is the Earth Dragon. It can't be moved by force and has +1 power for each adjacent site. It is so fantastic how this guy can get just so big so quick, and he can close out the game almost effortlessly. I play Xeraphine Conrule, Draco Corvus, another copy of Caelestis, and Kairos the Archivist. So fun fact about Caelestis, since I do have one outside of the game for Dragonlord, I can have one inside my actual deck. So that, even though it's a unique rarity, I essentially am having 2 in the deck list, which is fantastic. And of course, you know what Caelestis does. Kairos the Archivist has the Genesis ability to archive the state of the realm, and then his Deathrite ability returns all archived cards to their recorded state, but then you banish Kairos. Essentially, what that means is when you play this card, you grab your phone, you literally take a photo of the board state, and anything that is in play essentially will return back to where it was in the photo when this dies. So there's so much complexity with that ability, and there's just so many ruling updates. I think this card at this very moment has 18 FAQs, which is just absurd. I think that's the most FAQ that I had seen on any card. I could be wrong, but even just the sheer number of having 18 rules for a card is crazy. We have Xeraphine Conrule and then Draco Corvus. Xeraphine Conrule has Airborne, and at the end of the turn, I can banish 3 of my dead minions, banish 2 of them, and then return 1 of them to my hand. So essentially, if I have 3 dead minions, I can return 1 of them back, which is so fantastic. If my opponent had already killed other dragons, I can just get them back to my hand. Draco Corvus has Airborne and Stealth, and I can tap him to teleport to a tapped minion and burrow it, which is so good. It's essentially a removal spell, and the fact that he can teleport is kind of crazy because he can just close so much distance, and it's just such a fantastic card. So for the rest of the deck are my spells and my auras. So I have 1 Browse, 4 Common Sense, 4 Lightning Bolt, 3 Firebolts, 1 Disenchant, 3 Poison Nova. So these are all of my magics. So I play Browse. You look at the next 7 cards on your spellbook. You add 1 to your hand and put the rest on the spellbook in any order. Common Sense just lets you search your deck for any ordinary card. So I can search for the Lightning Bolts, Firebolts, Disenchant, Leprechauns, or if I wanted to, I can search another copy of Common Sense. It's not the greatest strategy, but being able to use this to search for another Common Sense and so forth, essentially it thins your deck. And when you're trying to play, dragons and you want to draw into more dragons, thinning your deck isn't the worst thing to do. It's also fantastic too because it shuffles your deck for Cradle of Ethereum, so then that way you can guarantee that you're going to try to flip a dragon off the ability. Lightning Bolt and Firebolts essentially are just burn spells. My removal spells other than these are Poison Nova, but ideally I want to use these to benefit my dragons to help me win the game. Because normally, if I draw one dragon, I'm hoping that that one dragon can just win the game by itself, as long as I support it with these bolts. I have Disenchant. It's like I just have to play this, especially if I'm playing Common Sense, because right now these are just so dominant. If my opponent has a Ring of Morgan, more than likely they're just going to warp the game with it, so I absolutely need to get rid of it. And if they have Amulet of Minion, they can protect themselves from these burn spells, so I absolutely need to get rid of that as well. There have been some times where my opponent will play one, and then once I disenchant, they'll play another. And I'm thinking about adding a Dispel in here, but for now, I feel like with the room that I have, it's kind of tough to make that cut. But you never know. As time changes and when Gothic comes out, maybe there could be a better option. But for now, I just play the one Disenchant. So I play 3 Poison Nova. Of course, this is a control deck, and I'm trying to stabilize the board state and pace the game, which is exactly what Poison Nova does. Because it has lethal, deal 1 damage to each minion nearby, and then those minions will die because they take lethal damage. Next are my auras. I have Atlantean Fate to submerge minions and artifacts, but also to disrupt my opponent's threshold. And the last 2 auras I have 1 copy of the Great Famine and 1 copy of the Black Plague. These are essentially the same card. The Great Famine says at the end phase of the turn, destroy the strongest minion occupying affected sites, and if it's tied, you choose one to kill, and it's dispelled if there are none that die. The Black Plague does the exact same thing as the Great Famine. The only difference is that at the end phase of your turn, the Black Plague kills the weakest minion affecting the occupied sites. And of course, it is dispelled if nothing dies, and it's tied, then you get to choose. So these are essentially in here for more removal, but have better range simply because they're auras and I can play them at the corner of any site. So that's it for the spellbook. A lot of big dragons, a lot of good control cards, and a lot of good support as well. Okay, so now I'll go into my atlas. I have a color out of space for obvious reasons. This is the best site in the game, period. So I have Dragonlord's Lair. Dragons cast at a site require no threshold and cost 1 less. This is very fantastic. I wish there was a way how it did provide threshold, because it does matter slightly, but the fact that all dragons summoned here require no threshold and cost 1 less does make it a little bit easier to cast your dragon spells. I play 1 of each of the tri-sites, so I have Tentacle, Glastonbury Tor, Caerleon Upon Usk, and Joyous Garde. These sites are so important, mainly just for the simple fact that they provide a ton of threshold, and as long as they exist in my back row, they will continue to provide mana and threshold. So kind of similar to the color out of space, they do have a downside if they're not positioned correctly. These have to be in the back row, which is here, and then color out of space just has to have a void adjacent to it. As long as you meet those requirements, you're all set. I have Fields of Camlin to further help destroy other minions in play. Essentially, if I meet its threshold when I play it, its Genesis ability allows each player to choose 1 of their minions, but kill the rest. And sometimes my opponent overextends with too many minions. This is just great to keep them in check and pace the game a little bit longer. That way I can kill multiple minions at once. I play 1 Smokestacks of Gannok. So this is just absolutely fantastic. It provides fire threshold, and it says other nearby sites lose their abilities. So actually, fun fact, I can actually have a Smokestacks of Gannok, and if I happen to play a tri-site above the back row, essentially this will negate this negative debuff, which means that this will always have mana and threshold. And it also works the same way with the color out of space. So the fact that this also disrupts my opponent's site's abilities as well is just fantastic, because it makes these better, and it also disrupts my opponent. And it provides threshold. It just does too many things. It's such a ridiculous card. Next, I have River of Flame. This is another unique fire site that has Fire Spellcaster. So since I am playing Firebolts, this can cast said Firebolt or even Poison Nova. And the best part is that I can actually cast them underground. So if my opponent has a Root Spider that's burrowed, this can use the Firebolts to kill it, or the Poison Nova, and more than likely that comes up just way too many times, and that's the most ideal thing you want to do with River Flame. Having it also in front of Dragonlord to get extra range with Poison Nova or your Firebolts is great as well. Play Pillar of Zeros. If there are too many dead minions by the time I play this, this can help stabilize my life total, because its Genesis ability banishes all dead minions, and I gain 1 life for each one. And the best part is that it also banishes the ones in my opponent's cemetery as well. I have Mirror Realm. This can just come in play as a copy of any nearby site, which, I mean, I've already gone over so many impressive sites as is, so the fact that I can make a second copy of any of these uniques is just absolutely insane. Next I have Boneyard. So its Genesis ability allows each player to summon a dead minion from their cemetery here, which is fantastic because there are so many times where I have dragons that die throughout the course of the game, so having a site that just brings them back is great. My opponent does get to bring back a minion, but it's really great if they just don't have any minions in their cemetery to begin with, because then I'm the only one that can bring one back. Next, I have Bower of Bliss. This is such a powerful card. Mortals in the realm become beasts and are silenced, so all mortals just essentially can't use their text box and they lose their abilities. It is a little unfortunate because I do play the Highland Princess and I do play Morgana Le Fay, but the rest of the deck is dragons. So if I happen to go up against a deck that's playing a bunch of Grandmaster Wizards or Morgana Le Fay, I can use this to silence them and make them not as great. I have 2 Valley of Delight, just simply to fix my threshold. When it comes in play, its Genesis ability allows me to pick any threshold, and this site provides that threshold permanently. The rest of the Atlas is self-explanatory. I have 3 Ruins, 3 Windmill, 3 Step, 2 Lighthouse, 2 Oasis, and 2 Aqueduct. So essentially, by playing all these dual sites and by playing all of these unique tri-sites, or even this color out of space, for example, I'm able to just facilitate my threshold so much easier. And sometimes when, for example, if I happen to, let's say, draw a step or a lighthouse, I'm already facilitating one of each threshold with just 2 sites, which is just fantastic. And of course, having these just makes it so much easier for me to use Dragonlord and Caelestis to play my dragons as efficiently and as easily as possible. So there you have it, guys. This is my Dragonlord Control Deck list. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, leaving a like, or even a comment. It's totally your choice. Please stay tuned for more content. And as always, have an awesome